You will hear a number of different recordings, and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 sections. Write all your answers in the listening question booklet. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet. Now turn to Section 1. Section 1. You will hear 2 friends talking about a holiday trip they plan to make. First, you will have some time to look at questions 1 to 6. You see, there is an example which has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Hello, Steve. How are you?
I'm not too bad today, thank you, Jane. And you? How did you go in the exams?
I'm not sure. I haven't got all my results yet, but I'm so glad we're coming up to the end of the semester. I really need a holiday, so I'm going camping with some friends. What are you doing over the semester break, Steve?
Jane said she really needs a holiday, so in the example, C is the answer. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6.
Hello, Steve. How are you?
Oh, I'm not too bad today, thank you, Jane. And you? How did you go in the exams?
I'm not sure. I haven't got all my results yet, but I'm so glad we're coming up to the end of the semester. I really need a holiday, so I'm going camping with some friends. What are you doing over the semester break, Steve?
I haven't got any plans yet. I don't really have enough money to fly home. I suppose I could get a part-time job and earn some money, but I don't really want to. Then again, maybe I could start studying for next semester.
Well, I thought about doing some summer courses, but I decided that's not a good idea. I need a break or I'll get stale. I need to do something completely different. You do too. Why don't you join me and my friends on the camping trip?
Well, I don't know really. Would your friends mind?
No, of course not. They'd be happy to have you along. We're going down to the Royal National Park. Have you been there yet?
No, I haven't. It's somewhere south of Sydney, isn't it?
Yes, it's about 30 kilometres south of Sydney. We'll be getting an early train from Central to Sutherland. It leaves Central at 7 and goes to Waterfall via Sutherland. Armin and Lucy are joining us there because they live in Caringbah.
Oh, I see. That is very early. And who did you say will join the train at Caringbah?
No, not at Caringbah, at Sutherland. Armin and Lucy. Then from Waterfall we'll hike to where we're going to be spending the first few days. That's at Gary Beach.
What's the park like? Is it on the coast or inland?
It's on the coast, but it's very big, over 15,000 hectares. And there are a couple of rivers, especially a big one, the Hacking.
Can you do anything on this river? Can we go on it?
Oh, yeah, lots. You can hire boats, go boating, row boats.
Rowboats? Hey, that sounds fun. And what about scuba diving or horse riding? Can we do any of those things?
Well, there isn't much point in scuba diving around there, as there aren't any reefs or anything. So there's not much underwater life. And because it's a national park, domestic animals aren't allowed.
So what equipment do we need to bring with us if we're going? Do we have to carry all our food for the week?
No, we've organised for the food to go down with a van, so we don't have to carry too much. You know Dave's van, it's a camper with a fridge and cooking things, so we needn't bother with that. But you'll need to bring a sleeping bag. I've got an extra one I can lend you if you haven't got one.
And what type of clothes should I bring? Like, what's the weather going to be like?
Bathers. Definitely bathers, because there are beaches and the river. You can swim in the river. There's some beautiful little swimming holes with waterfalls in the river. Good hiking boots, strong boots and socks. I think you need a few pairs of socks, because if they get wet, it's often difficult to dry them. Otherwise, whatever you prefer to hike in. If you like shorts, that's okay.
And what about my bicycle? Should I bring that?
Not really. Well, you could. There are places to cycle, but none of us are cycling this time. But you will need a warm sweater or jacket for the evenings.
So that's a bit of a pity. I rather like cycling, but not really on my own. And do we have to book anything, like the train maybe?
No, we don't need to book the train, and we've already booked beds in the youth hostel. We've booked 8 beds, and so far we've only got 6 people. So it's fine for you to come along.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen carefully and answer questions 7 to 10. And do we need a guide?
Oh no, look, here's a map, I'll show you. Now, you see these arrows? They're the marked walking trails. This is Waterfall, where we get off the train. Then we'll walk to Gary Beach and stay at the hostel there. You see this area beyond the youth hostel to the south? Those are rocky bluffs, and there are lots of animals and birds in this area. You can spend hours just watching them. Now, this area here, around Gary itself, has fabulous beaches for swimming and walking, and in some parts there are rock pools with fascinating sea creatures in them.
So there are plenty of places to swim.
Yeah, there are great places to swim. Then to the north of Gary, along the coast, there are some wonderful cliffs to walk along, where you can get spectacular views. We plan to walk along here to this great picnic and barbecue place with a waterfall called Watamola. Lots of people go there just for the day to have a picnic lunch. Of course, Dave will have to drive the van. This area here is Audley.
Where? Oh, yes.
It's not a town. It's just a place where 2 rivers join, where you can hire rowboats. We'll spend the last day here, and then we'll all pile into the van, so Dave can drive us back to Sutherland to get the train home.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 2. Section 2. You will hear a student counsellor talking about the Student Welfare Service. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14. Good morning, my name is Dave Eastman and I'm one of the 5 student counsellors in the university. And I'm here today to introduce myself to you briefly and to say a few words about the Student Welfare Service. But before I begin, I'd like to thank your faculty head, Professor Anwar, for inviting me here to talk to you. At the end, I'll throw the questions open to the floor. The service we offer is available on all 6 sites of the university campus. The 3 main sites have a counsellor available on weekdays, Monday to Thursday, between 9:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. On this site, the office is situated in the Queen's Building on the 1st floor. I understand that all of you are based on this site, so I won't go into details about the others. Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen carefully and answer questions 15 to 20. Information about the service and the other offices is contained in this leaflet, which you can pick up practically anywhere on the campus. We also run a helpline, which is open after the office is closed. The number for the line is 03 45 1607 2390. This number, with all the others, my own included, is contained in the leaflet. Obviously, we would like to make the helpline available 24 hours a day, but the money simply isn't there, so we have to rely on the generosity of volunteers. I can say on average the line is open about 3 hours per evening, most evenings, and roughly 8 hours at the weekends. If there's no one to take your call, or in the event of an emergency, there will be a message on the answering machine which will give you other contact numbers. You might be thinking, why not just give us the leaflet and get on with the lecture? Well, the answer to that, as you probably well know, is that people don't always read leaflets. They look at them and say, that's not for me. People contact us for a variety of reasons. They may come to see us if they feel isolated, because it's the first time many have been away from home. Or they may have personal relationship problems, or money problems. Certain times of the year bring increased pressure to bear on students, the exam time being the main one, and I'm not just talking about finals. Preparing a paper for a tutorial or a seminar can also be a stressful exercise. On occasions like this, we are available to help you. We don't pretend that we have an answer for every problem, but we can try and help. And if we can't, we can usually refer you to someone who can. I would also like to take this opportunity to ask for volunteers for our advice helpline. You don't need any previous experience, and because you are newcomers to the university, it does not mean that you do not have anything to offer. We provide training and support for all volunteers. So if you'd like to get involved, see me at the end of this session. I'd like to thank you for listening, and now is your chance to ask some questions. Yes, the gentleman in the third row in the red t-shirt. That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to Section 3. Section 3. You will hear a conversation between two students on studying English in Australia. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25. Hi there, Fiona.
Hi, Dennis.
This semester is coming to the end at last. After a semester of hard study, I really need a good rest.
Have you got any idea of your holiday?
Yes, I'm going to join an Italian tour.
Great.
How about you?
I will go to Australia to study English.
Why to Australia?
Because it's the closest English-speaking country to Thailand.
And I heard there are many choices for students.
Yes, there are. I can either study English separately, along with other subjects, or combined with fun and relaxation. And English language tuition is available across a vast range of levels which cater to all abilities. Over 160 institutions offer specialist English language tuition for international students.
Sounds good. I have thought of studying English abroad too, maybe next year. So I have made some investigations. I've found that all Australian universities have their own English language centres or have links with English language colleges.
Yes, those English language colleges that are not part of a university may be privately or government operated or part of government technical and business colleges. These colleges also provide English as part of their other courses.
I believe that these arrangements ensure that all international students have access to English language tuition, so they can either successfully complete their academic studies or drastically improve their level of spoken and written English. I forgot to ask, when will you leave and how long will you study there?
I'm going to leave next Monday and spend the whole holiday there.
So that is to say you're going to study in a summer school?
Not exactly a summer school. It's only a more relaxed way to study English in Australia as part of a vacation. Visitors on a tourist visa can undertake English study for up to 3 months. Many visitors take advantage of their holiday to upgrade their English. This informal English language tuition offers endless flexibility with courses especially designed for individuals or groups. Many colleges cater for specialist sports and hobbies by running English courses combined with pastimes such as scuba diving, golf, sailing, horse riding, or wine appreciation. These are known as study tours. I'm just in one of them.
Besides studying in class, is there any out-of-class activities?
Certainly there are. One particularly popular option is called Foundation Studies. It combines preparation for undergraduate university studies with improving one's ability to speak, read, understand and listen to English. Another popular option is a farm stay, where visitors are able to learn English while experiencing life on a cattle or sheep station.
It must be very interesting. Have you registered a farm stay?
Yes, I will stay in a sheep station for 2 weeks.
It's so attractive. You make me make up my mind to go to Australia next vacation. What suggestion would you like to give me? Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
I think you should first think of what to learn there.
To improve my English, of course.
No, I mean, you want to study General English or English for academic purposes.
What's the difference?
General English is designed for people who wish to improve their practical English skills for work or travel. The course focuses on the active use of English for effective communication in a wide range of formal and informal situations. General English courses can be undertaken at any level, from beginner through to advanced levels, and English for academic purposes is designed to prepare overseas students for further studies, in which English is the language of instruction. Incorporating reading and writing skills for academic purposes, presentation skills, and an introduction to research skills. This is one of the most popular courses amongst those continuing on to higher education.
Terrific. There are so many choices. You have given me a lot of help.
That's my pleasure.
I should have talked to you earlier. Then maybe we can go to Australia this vacation together.
It's a pity, but I am going first, and then I can tell you my experience there. So you may have a better preparation.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 4. Section 4. You will hear part of a lecture on the natural problems of Australia. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning. This morning we're continuing our look at Australia and its natural problems. Actually, dryness, or aridity, as it's generally called by geographers, is probably the most challenging of Australia's natural problems, and so it is very important in this course for you to have a good understanding of the subject. For Australia, water is a precious resource, and its wise management is of the greatest importance. As I have said, Australia is a dry continent, second only to Antarctica in its lack of rainfall. Long hours of hot sunshine and searing winds give Australia an extremely high rate of evaporation, far more than in most other countries. It is estimated that approximately 87% of Australia's rainfall is lost through evaporation, compared with just over 60% in Europe and Africa and 48% in North America. You generally think of Africa as being a very hot and dry place, but it is not in comparison with Australia. In many parts of Australia, standing water, that is, dams, puddles and so forth, dry up rapidly, and some rainfall barely penetrates the soil. The reason for this is that the moisture is absorbed by thirsty plants. Some parts of Australia are dry because rainwater seeps quickly through sandy soils and into the rock below. In parts of Australia, this water, which seeps through the sandy soil, collects underground to form underground lakes. Water from these subterranean lakes can be pumped to the surface and tapped, and so used for various purposes above the ground. In fact, extensive underground water resources are available over more than half of Australia's land area, but most of the water is too salty to be used for human consumption or for the irrigation of crops. However, most inland farmers do rely on this water for watering their animals and, where possible, to a lesser extent, for irrigation. Underground water can flow very large distances and can be kept in underground reservoirs for a very long time. Water from these underground reservoirs bubbles to the surface as springs in some parts of the country, and these rare sources of permanent water were vital to early explorers of inland Australia, and to other pioneers last century who used the springs for survival. But in many places, levels have fallen drastically through continuous use over the years. This has necessitated the pumping of the water to the surface. Remarkably, underground water sources in Australia supply about 18% of total water consumption. So you can see it is quite an important source of water in this dry land. So most of the consumption of water in Australia comes from water which is kept above ground. More than 300 dams regulate river flows around the country. The dams store water for a variety of functions, the rural irrigation of crops, without which many productive areas of the country would not be able to be farmed, the regulation of flooding, a serious problem which will be dealt with later in the course, and last but not least, the harnessing of the force of gravity for the generation of electricity. That is all we have time for this morning, but you will be able to do further study on this important area in the library. I have a handout here with references on the subject, so if you are interested, please come up to the desk and take a copy. Next week's lecture is a case study of an outback farm and...
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. That is the end of the test. You now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet.